A single pound note in 1970s Britain could buy you an entire childhood Christmas. Not just one toy, not just a few sweets. We're talking about a haul that would keep you entertained for months. Today, that same pound wouldn't even cover a chocolate bar from a service station. But back then, you could walk into Woolworth with a crumpled 1 pound note and walk out with enough toys to make you the most popular kid on your street. This is the story of when money actually meant something, and how 100 pence could buy pure magic. Let's get one thing straight first. Getting your hands on 1 pound in the 1970s wasn't like finding a quid down the back of the sofa today. Most kids got between 10 and 20 pence as weekly pocket money. Do the math. That's 5 to 10 weeks of saving, resisting the temptation of the sweet shop, doing extra chores, and begging relatives for birthday money. When you finally had that note in your hand, it felt like holding a fortune. Christmas morning in a 1970s British household smelled different. No central heating in most homes meant you'd wake up to ice on the inside of your bedroom windows. But downstairs, something special waited. And if you'd been given 1 pound or managed to save it yourself, you had proper spending power. Here's where it gets interesting. That single pound could buy you a brand new Star Wars action figure, still on its card. Not the rare ones, obviously, but a standard Stormtrooper or Luke Skywalker would set you back about 79 pence. You'd still have change jingling in your pocket, actual change, for more stuff. Or forget the single figure. You could grab 3 or 4 Matchbox cars instead, those little die-cast vehicles that every British kid collected. They weren't flimsy plastic rubbish either. These were proper metal toys that could survive being thrown down the stairs, buried in the garden, and retrieved 3 years later still working perfectly. But wait, here's something that'll blow your mind. Model kits. Those Airfix boxes with the Spitfires, tanks, and battleships on the front. The ones that turned your kitchen table into a construction zone for days, with tiny plastic pieces everywhere and that distinct smell of model glue that probably wasn't entirely safe to inhale. You could buy multiple kits with your 1 pound, not just one, multiple, each one promising hours of careful assembly, painting, and inevitable disappointment when you realize the transfer decals never went on quite right. Music was different then too. No Spotify, no YouTube. If you wanted to hear your favorite song, you had to own it. A vinyl single, 7 inches of pure joy with the big hit on the A side and some random track on the B side that nobody ever listened to. Around 50 pence each, you could grab 2 singles and still have money left over. You didn't just listen to music, you owned it. You could hold it. The crackle when the needle hit the groove was part of the experience. Now, the sweet shop. This deserves its own moment because it was basically a child's stock market. Prices fluctuated, quality varied, strategic decisions had to be made. With 1 pound, you weren't buying a single chocolate bar, you were buying an empire of sugar. 10 pence would fill a paper bag with cola bottles, flying saucers, blackjacks, and fruit salads. Those little chews wrapped in paper that would stick to your teeth for hours. A Smarties tube cost about 8 pence, a Mars bar 6 pence. Sherbet fountains, licorice wheels, gobstoppers that actually lasted for days. You could walk out of the shop with enough confectionery to supply your entire street. The Cadbury selection box was the crown jewel of Christmas sweets, about 35 pence for a box containing miniature versions of all the classics, fudge bars, crunchies, dairy milk, and those little packets of buttons. It felt like winning the lottery, except the lottery was chocolate and you were 8 years old. But toys weren't just about having them, they were about what you could do with them. Action Man accessories transformed a basic figure into an Arctic explorer, a deep-sea diver, or an SAS soldier. The outfits came separately, and with your 1 pound, you could kit out your Action Man properly. Boots, helmet, rifle, backpack. Each piece made the adventure more real. The same went for Cindy dolls, Bryn's answer to Barbie. New outfits, furniture sets, tiny plastic accessories that would inevitably end up lost under the sofa or hoovered up by your mom. Chop Trumps cards were the original trading card game. No fancy holographic nonsense or rare polls, just statistics. Cars, aircraft, tanks, dinosaurs. Each pack cost about 30 pence, and playground battles were won or lost on whether your Lamborghini Countach had a higher top speed than your mate's Ferrari. Annual books were massive at Christmas. The Beano Annual, thick as a brick, packed with Dennis the Menace, Minnie the Minx, and the Bash Street Kids. About 60 pence for a year's worth of comics bound into one book. You'd read it cover to cover on Christmas Day, then read it again every night before bed until next Christmas. Same with football annuals, which had every stat, every player photo, and those weird predictions about who'd win the league that were always spectacularly wrong. Here's a weird one. Clackers. 2 acrylic balls on a string that you swung up and down until they clacked together above and below your hand. Absolutely brilliant until they inevitably shattered and sent shards of plastic flying everywhere. They were banned eventually, probably for good reason, but for a brief moment, every kid in Britain had a pair, about 25 pence. Marbles were even cheaper. A massive bag cost almost nothing, and yet marble season in the playground was serious business. You'd win, lose, trade, and occasionally get into actual fights over a particularly nice cat's eye or a boulder marble. The thing is, none of these were disposable purchases. Today, you buy something, it breaks, you bin it, you order a replacement on Amazon. But in the 1970s, if you spent your carefully saved £1 on something, you looked after it. You repaired it. You made it last. That Airfix model might have taken you 3 days to build, but you'd keep it on your shelf for years. Those Matchbox cars would be passed down to younger siblings or cousins. Records got played until they were scratched beyond recognition, but you'd still play them anyway. And here's the psychological trick that modern shopping has completely lost: the anticipation. You'd save for weeks. You'd look through the Argos catalogue until the pages wore thin. You'd know exactly what you wanted before you even walked into the shop. The purchase wasn't just a transaction, it was the climax of a story you'd been writing in your head for months. Christmas in the 1970s wasn't about getting everything, it was about getting something. And that something meaning absolutely everything. Your £1 wasn't spent in 5 minutes of mindless clicking. It was an event, a decision, an investment in weeks of play ahead. The social aspect was huge too. If you had the latest Star Wars figure, kids wanted to come to your house. If you had a new pack of Top Trumps, you had instant playground currency. If you'd managed to get the new Sweet single on vinyl, suddenly everyone wanted to be your mate. These weren't just possessions, they were social tools. Funny thing is, most of this stuff is worth more now than it was then. That Star Wars figure you bought for 79 pence and played with until the arm fell off, if you'd kept it in the packaging, it might be worth hundreds today. Those Matchbox cars you buried in the garden, collectors pay serious money for them now. Even the annuals, if they're in decent condition, sell for more than their original price when adjusted for inflation. But nobody kept them mint in box because what would have been the point? You bought toys to play with them. You bought records to listen to them. You bought sweets to eat them. The idea of buying something just to keep it sealed in a cupboard would have seemed completely mad. The real value wasn't financial anyway. It was experiential. That £1 bought you weeks of entertainment. Hours spent building models at the kitchen table while your dad gave unsolicited advice. Afternoons trading Top Trumps in the playground, evenings listening to your new single on repeat until your parents threatened to throw the record player out the window. Christmas morning unwrapping a selection box and carefully planning which chocolate to eat first. Money felt different then. There were no credit cards for most families, no overdrafts, no buy now, pay later schemes. If you didn't have the money, you didn't buy the thing. Simple as that. It made every purchase feel more significant, more earned, more valuable. And maybe that's why people bang on about the good old days, even though objectively most things are better now. We've got better technology, better healthcare, better safety standards, and definitely better central heating. But something was lost in the translation between then and now. The last generation to understand this is getting older. The kids who saved their pocket money for months to buy a single action figure are now in their 50s and 60s. Their children never experienced it. Their grandchildren definitely won't. Soon, there'll be nobody left who remembers when £1 could buy an entire Christmas of happiness. When money felt smaller but somehow meant more. When shopping wasn't about clicking a button, but about walking into Woolworths with a plan and walking out with treasure. But there's one item from 1970s Christmas shopping that everyone forgot about. Something that cost less than 50 pence but caused more family arguments than anything else on this list. And if you remember what it was, you're properly old.